In this short video, we will be looking at an evaluation essay on mens rea. Evaluation essays appear on exam 3, and you'll be required to answer one essay on criminal, one on tort, and one on contract. So this could be a typical criminal essay that you'd be asked. The question is, mens rea requires fault on the part of the defendant. The current law on both intention and recklessness is uncertain and unjust. Critically evaluate the accuracy of this statement. As usual, it's worth 25 marks and you would have 45 minutes to answer it in the exam. Now in my document, I've got quite a dramatic image here taken from a police poster. And the reason it's here is that it's illustrating one of the major criticisms of the law on mens rea. And one of those major criticisms we'll come to later is the fact that you can be guilty of murder even though you didn't intend to kill, as long as you intended to cause GBH. And that's something that surprises most members of the public, and that's why the police have created this poster, to illustrate that even if you don't intend to kill, you could be guilty of murder. So remember, in an evaluation essay, whilst we want to be talking about all of our mens rea cases and our definitions and our rules, really important that we've got evaluation. And the evaluation is more important because you get 10 marks for AO1, 15 marks for your AO2. And this is an AO2 area that we can include. So if we scroll down then to my answer, as usual, my AO1 is in black font and my AO2 is in red font. And as usual, if you scroll through, you should see black, red, as far as possible, because that's showing that you're balancing your essay. So if I was asked this question on mens rea, I would start with a definition of what mens rea is, and of course it's the mental element of the crime. And straight away I can evaluate this and say that mens rea is difficult to prove because of course we can't jump into the defendant's mind and we can't know exactly what they were thinking. And inevitably that can lead to uncertainty and unjust decisions, particularly when you're looking at murder and manslaughter. I would then go on to say what my 3 types of mens rea are: direct, oblique, and recklessness. And I'm going to talk about each one of them in turn, pointing out problems as I go through. So I would start with direct intent. This is where the defendant's aim, objective or purpose is to bring about the prohibited result, and that comes from Mohan. I've highlighted my cases for you. And motive is irrelevant to direct intent, as in Dudley and Stevens. And you could evaluate this by saying that this is potentially an unfair decision because there is a moral difference between being a cold-blooded killer and killing to survive, which is, of course, what the sailors in Dudley and Stevens did. That's connected to euthanasia, of course, this idea about the moral difference, because you could make the point that euthanasia is still classed as murder and it carries the same sentence as terrorism, despite the fact that there is a good motive, if you like. And many think that this is unfair. So straight away here, when we're looking at direct intent, we're seeing that there are problems because people might be acting kindly in some instances or to survive in dramatic situations, and yet they are classed the same as a cold-blooded killer. So I've dealt with direct, and I'm now going to go on to indirect or oblique intent. And I've straight away there said that there's an issue here because the courts have struggled to find an appropriate test. And the law has developed bit by bit through case law. So over the years, we've had a number of cases which have all struggled with this issue. I've defined oblique intent there, and it's good to give a hypothetical example of it. So putting a bomb on a plane to claim insurance money, the direct intent is the money, oblique intent is death of the passengers. And then I'm going to look at my cases on this area. So I've got my ratio in Maloney and Shankland and then Nedrick. And of course, Nedrick, very important here because it created a two-part test for oblique intent. And I've given that test there. Death or serious injury was a virtual certainty, and the defendant realised that. In terms of evaluation, the Nedrick test is an improvement on Maloney, which just had this vague, strong evidence statement. So it is an improvement. I think that's a fairly straightforward test for the jury to understand. However, in the later case of Woolin, the House of Lords changed the word infer from this two-part test in Nedrick, and they changed it to the word find because they thought it'd be easier for the jury. My issue there is how much clearer is the law on oblique intent just by changing this one word? Probably not at all, really. And then, I've got Matthews in a line, just noticed, not highlighted that, there we go. And I've got my ratio there in Matthews. So I've sort of evaluated here on oblique intent that the test is difficult for juries to understand. Virtual certainty is a matter of the jury's discretion. We don't have a clear definition of it. Some kinds of cases are perhaps going to be seen worse than others. And I've put there, this is quite a nice point to put in your essay, so that some people say it's not morally acceptable to attribute foresight of a virtual certainty as being the same as intending something, because foreseeing something and intending it are very different. I've then gone on, it links in here before I go on to recklessness. It's a good point to start talking about my mens rea of murder here. I want to put the mens rea of murder in because there's a lot of evaluation I can do of that. And although it's murder, of course it relates to this topic because we're still talking about mens rea. So mens rea for murder is intention to kill or intention to cause GBH, and we know that from Vickers. But there's a lot of debate about this second bit, about whether intention to do GBH should be enough for murder. And in Cunningham, Lord Edmund Davies said that in his opinion it was strange that it's possible to be guilty of murder even where there was no intention to kill. So he's talking about this situation here, that he thinks it's strange the defendant could be convicted of murder through this one punch if he didn't intend to kill. And I think that's a valid argument. In most people's minds, that would be manslaughter rather than murder. And the Law Commission also seem to agree with this. They've said that Parliament never intended killing to be a murder unless the defendant realised that their conduct might cause death. And so our definition of murder is arguably too wide. And we've also got the difficulty, of course, that it's impossible to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that the defendant could completely foresee the death. So, big issues here with the mens rea of murder. And murder's arguably one of our most serious crimes. So surprising perhaps that we have all these problems around the mens rea. I've then gone on to consider recklessness. Recklessness is also problematic. We know it's the taking of an unjustified risk. Classic example there, fire by a haystack. And we don't require any ill will to the victim. That comes from Cunningham. But we've not been that clear over the years about whether we should use a subjective test or an objective test. Remember, subjective means the defendant themselves actually realised the risk. An objective test means that we don't really care what the defendant saw. We say what a reasonable man would have foreseen. And it's arguably quite unfair to use an objective test because if you're taking a risk, you need to know that you're taking a risk, really, in my opinion, for liability. We did have an objective test in MPC and Caldwell, but this was overruled in R and G&R. And it was very young children in the case of R and G&R. And the House of Lords said that the defendant must realise he's taking a risk and takes it anyway. So we've gone back to a subjective test. I think that's fairer, but on the other hand, it's now easier for a defendant to avoid liability by simply saying that he didn't foresee the consequence, even if everybody else, would have seen it coming. I'm then sort of heading to my conclusion here that the law on mens rea is uncertain, sometimes unjust. I've talked about some proposals from the Law Commission there, but as yet they've not been followed up. Related to this, of course, is the fact that the Law Commission have recommended changing all of the law on homicide, and instead of having murder and manslaughter, having tiers of homicide. So you would have first degree, second degree, third degree, etc. And some would argue that this would give the judge too much power. However, we do need some statutory definitions on intention and recklessness if we're not going to go along with the homicide tiers there. I've included the mark scheme, which we're familiar with at the bottom, AO1 bands and your AO2 bands. Remember, the examiner will score you in each band, and they will add your AO1 to your AO2 to give you your overall mark. So you want to have your cases in, and you want to have your evaluation in. And you can see that I have got all of my key cases, all of my rules, all of my definitions in there, but I've also got some evaluation in there for the AO2 marks. Okay, I hope you found that helpful.